Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. This is historic. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this. This is an historic evening in the history of this country. It's going to pass, well, it already passed the House, the SAVE Act requiring proof of citizenship and picture photo ID to vote in American elections. This should not be controversial at all, especially when you look at what Democrats did to Bernie Sanders and to Joe Biden after he won his primary. If Democrats are going to do that to people like Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, imagine what they would do, or what they've done, potentially, possibly, to Donald Trump. Hit subscribe. This is huge. You're going to hear Mike Johnson in a second. To my super chat, thank you. To the new members of this channel, thank you. This is huge. It's going to get passed in the Senate via, not because of the filibuster. It won't get passed immediately. It might not get passed immediately, but it'll be embedded within legislation, a spending package or other legislation before Democrats potentially or likely take over the House. Hit subscribe. Paul, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. Let's get started. This is huge. And really quickly, with all the hysteria and obsession pertaining to a Democratic donor that was a monster and committed heinous atrocities, with all the hysteria, people should understand that this is an historic passing of legislation that secures. This is the issue about. This is securing American democracy for the future, for future generations. But really quickly, he was a monster. He was a Democratic donor who gave money to Democrats in New York, in Florida, and throughout the country. When he was alive, he lived in New York and Florida primarily, and an island that was a constituent. He was a constituent, according to Jamie Raskin, of a Democrat. Democrats had been resigning. They took 90% of his money. He gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Democrats, specifically so that very likely any information incriminating would be scrubbed. So President Obama's administration and Biden's administration didn't touch it. So that Democratic donor, and then Trump is releasing the files, and like everything, he's getting blamed. And he called police in 2006. He actually called the Palm Beach police chief in 2006, according to the FBI. Did Bill or Hillary or anyone else call? No. What's the thanks Trump gets? Oh, he did this according to a tip line. Well, according to a tip line, other people did things too. According to a tip line, anyone repeating the uncorroborated, unsubstantiated, salacious allegations could be accused of the same thing themselves. You need evidence. The evidence shows that it was Trump that kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. It was Trump that called police on him. And it's Trump that's releasing the files. The files weren't released under Biden. I wish Massey and Ro Khanna would ask, why didn't files get released under President Obama and Biden? So anyway, hit subscribe, check it out. And why did Epp give money, $20,000 to Hillary Clinton, $22,000 to Chuck Schumer? Why did he give money, $139,000 to Democrats, according to Open Secrets? Only $18,000 to Republicans. Why did he give the vast majority of his money to Democrats? Why was he giving money, and what was he expecting from Democrats? That's the question people should ask, but of course they're not asking that question. Anyway, this is huge. Check it out. Hit subscribe right now. And Paul, thank you in Australia. Thank you so much for your support. To my super chat. This was an historic night, ladies and gentlemen.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. This is a very important night on the House floor. House Republicans tonight stood with the overwhelming majority of Americans who demand secure elections. Standing with me are some of the champions of this cause in the House and some of the leaders outside our chamber who've been working on this issue to ensure this integrity for quite some time, and this is a big achievement tonight. By voting for the Save America Act, House Republicans did exactly what the American people sent us here to do. It's promises made, promises kept. Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling, because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense. All the Save America Act does is it enhances the SAVE Act, which you've already passed twice before, which says that you have to have proof of citizenship before you register to vote in federal elections. The law already provides for that, but we need to ensure that it's enforced. And the second part of it, what we added tonight and what is part of the Save America Act is the second piece, the very common sense requirement that you have a photo ID if you're going to vote. So that's it. That's what the bill does. Proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote.
There's nothing wrong with that. It is not difficult to get a passport. It's not difficult to get the ID, and proof of citizenship is not difficult to obtain. If you're a citizen, proof of ID and proof of citizenship and a photo ID. Okay, this is not rocket science. And the same people that say, "Oh, well, oh my God, this is terrible. It's very, all of this stuff doesn't really, there's no problem at all. Oh, what's this? Oh, what's this?" We have now an issue where scanned images, thousands of scanned images and ballots are missing, not just from Fulton County, from lots of other locations also, almost certainly. Almost certainly. And so you have 17,852 missing ballot images. And the rebuttal is, well, it's very rare that these types of things would take place. That is no longer an acceptable rebuttal. But anyway, let's continue. Okay, and of course you have the fact check. Dun, 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 dun. Fact check in 2022. And the fact check says, well, we spoke to people, and those people are really smart, and they said it didn't happen. Well, fast forward in 2026, 4 years later, 17,852 missing ballot images. That's in addition to 315,000 votes that weren't signed correctly. Let's continue. This is huge, and it'll pass in the Senate via when the legislation is combined or embedded within a spending package or other legislation. Okay, so it's not going to just, it might pass itself if Thune nukes the filibuster, but he probably won't do that. So it will be embedded within legislation that will be passed before 26. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is why we can't have nice things, because there's an obsession with a Democratic donor who gave to Democrats who committed evil that Republicans also were a part of. But again, just draw a T-chart. Who do you think, if he gave money to Democrats primarily, 90%, you think maybe that political side is more involved? Potentially. Let's continue.
Everyone in the country understands the necessity of that, understands how simple it is and how important it is. And the only people that oppose it are people who want to cheat our system, who want to participate in our elections illegally, unlawfully. And that's not fair to the American people and the citizens of this country. And so
This is for every state nationwide. It's federal law. States cannot go around, once it gets passed in the House via legislation. You need 60 votes for the bill to pass. And they can filibuster and prevent it from passing just the SAVE Act itself. But the Save America Act is going to be embedded within legislation before the 26 midterms in November. So it will pass the Senate, and Democrats are going to be up in arms and outraged, as always, as they cheat Bernie Sanders and Biden after Biden won his primary. They're the wonderful, vanguards of democracy as they, completely, throw their own candidates, to the curb politically. But anyway, yes, it will pass. It will pass the Senate. It passed the House. Even one Democrat voted. It's nationwide. It's federal law. Democrats cannot alter federal law at the local level. And there's no widespread evidence that people who aren't citizens are influencing the outcome. But there was zero evidence the Russians influenced even one vote. Even the NSA and James Clapper said not one vote was altered by hackers from Russia. Not one vote. Yet they still obsessed. So the rebuttal that not one vote is altered, or it's very rare, is not a rebuttal. Because we have 17,852 missing, we can say ballot images, votes, whatever you want to call it, but here, this is huge. It's nationwide. It's federal law. Democrats everywhere have to abide by this once it gets passed via legislation in the Senate. And it'll get passed within legislation, a spending bill, a spending package within legislation. It's huge. This is such an important victory for Trump. I just don't get it out. It's like you put a little shiny object in front of people. It's like, yes, evil exists. But who did the evil give money to? Primarily Democrats. And I'm not saying Republicans weren't engaged. Yes, they were. It's the elites. Who are the elites in Hollywood or in New York or in the most powerful financial centers, the most powerful influential media? Or who are they're wonderful, morally superior, highly educated Democrats who don't like Trump. You think people are walking around with Make America Great Again hats in the most prestigious, elitist places, academia, or, financial centers, or, places of political power? No! You think that people at the highest levels in the UN and throughout and all these multinational organizations and NGOs, you think they're walking around with a Make America Great Again hat, listening to Kid Rock? No! They're not Trumpers. They're not Trump. So when Democrats and media say, well, it's about the elites. Who are the elites wearing Make America Great Again hats? No, they're not. They're the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who have resigned, who were texting him real time, who obtained money. Evil, that man's name is evil now, was giving money, 90% of his money, to Democrats. Why would somebody so evil give money to Democrats? Anyway, let's continue.
We had only one House Democrat participate with us tonight. This has become a bitter partisan fight, and it's madness to us. We can't quite understand what the rationale is for opposing a free and fair election, but they're going to have to explain this to the people. And they're going to have a hard time doing that. Now, this bill, having passed the House, will now go to the Senate. And we are encouraging all of our Senate Republican colleagues who believe in this just as we do to try to get this thing through the system, to pass it there. And we're hoping that some Democrats in the Senate will come to their senses and do the right thing for the people. Otherwise, they got a lot of explaining to do, as we say down in the South. This is something that is overdue. It's something.
It'll get passed within legislation. That doesn't say Save America Act, but it will get passed in the Senate. Legislation will go through the House, and it'll be a spending bill, and Democrats will threaten a shutdown, and they'll lose. It'll get passed. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is federal law. This is huge.
And it's common sense. It's something that comports with what the American people want. And there's really just one question.
John, thank you so much. Paul, thank you. John, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. This is huge, people. I'm just so glad and honored that you're watching right now in the live stream and in the upload. You hit subscribe if you're new. This is the type of thing that people should be focused on, okay? if you're focused on the files, just ask, who did that evil man give money to primarily? The Democratic Party. So do you think maybe every incriminating piece of criminality has been scrubbed during President Obama and Biden's years? Anyway, let's continue.
That would linger over all this now. Will Senate Democrats continue to cater to their extreme left-wing base, or are they going to finally join the overwhelming majority of Americans on this common sense reform? But I'll tell you this, once again, Republicans have demonstrated that we are the party of common sense. We are the party that's delivering exactly what the American people sent us here to do, and we will continue that. Got a lot of champions that you can hear from here shortly before we take a few questions, and I'm going to yield first to Chairman Brian Stile, who has worked really hard on this issue. Where is he at?
Right behind you, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you, sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. What an exciting day to have passed the Save America Act, moving forward two absolutely essential and important topics in election integrity. Making sure that it's only U.S. citizens who are voting in U.S. elections by ensuring that where there is proof of citizenship at the time of registration. The other topic being photo identification. And as you watch the left push back against this, you realize how ridiculous their argument is. We were having a debate at committee on the topic of photo identification. I flew home to Wisconsin, went, grabbed a six-pack of beer. The clerk recognized me, said, "Hey, Brian, can I see your ID?" Said, "Sure." I opened up my wallet, handed my wallet, he checked it. He allowed me to buy a six-pack of beer. I just think it's absolutely nuts that we protect our beer more than our ballots in jurisdictions across this country. The legislation today is a meaningful and real step forward in election integrity to make sure that it's only American citizens who are voting and that the people are who they say they are who come to the polls. So I appreciate the work of the leadership, our outside friends who are with us today, and it's my great pleasure to now yield to the author of the bill, my good friend, Chip Roy.
Well, only a man from Wisconsin being here talking about protecting his beer, right? It's like
Chip Roy is awesome. Check it out.
Look, and I'm for that, by the way. To be on the record, I'm for protecting your beer. Look, it is an honor to be here. I just think this is a great reflection of the team that is the Republican conference in the House and what we're doing to work together to deliver for the American people. They sent us here to do what we said we would do. It's a pretty simple task. The president talks about common sense. This piece of legislation is simple common sense. There's a reason that it is polling at astronomical levels, no matter which party you're in, no matter what race or background you have, whether you're urban or rural, whether you're black or white, Hispanic, whether you're male or female, it's polling at 80, 85, 90% across the country. It's because it's common sense. The American people want a sovereign nation. They understand that voter ID is common sense to vote. They want only American citizens to vote in American elections. And this legislation does that. And the Save America Act is now headed to the Senate. And we certainly hope that the Senate will take it up in good faith, put it on the floor, and have a robust debate. Make the greatest deliberative body a great deliberative body again. Go to the floor of the Senate and take this up. I want to see people who want to oppose it go to the floor of the Senate and try to explain to the American people why they wouldn't support this common sense legislation.
It will pass the Senate almost 100% before midterms. It'll pass very likely, either with a vote, but very likely it'll pass within legislation, a spending package that will pass the House and Senate. And Democrats will threaten a shutdown, and Trump won't care, and more federal, the base of support within D.C. for Democrats will then leave government jobs because of a shutdown, and people will be laid off. And so it's like Democrats, they threaten government shutdown, but then they lose when Trump is actually benefiting from a smaller government workforce. But the point is, this will pass in legislation before 2026. This is huge. It's historic, ladies and gentlemen. It is absolutely historic. And again, this is the type of thing that people need to get really excited about. This is the type of thing that secures victories. Hey, if Democrats win with this, good. God bless them. It's, you know what? The reason they don't want this is almost certainly tied to the manner in which they win. But if you win fair and square and you ensure that you have proof of citizenship and you have an ID, because in Democratic primaries, you can't, in most Democratic primaries, you have to prove that you are a registered Democrat. You can't come in as a Republican. Why is that? So this is the same thing, but for the country, to ensure that democracy is upheld. But let's continue.
I want to thank the Speaker. I want to thank Chairman Stile. I want to thank all of the leadership team here. But I want to give a special shout out and thanks to the groups and all of my friends here, but particularly Cleta Mitchell, without whom we wouldn't have been able to get this drafted in the first place and get this bill across the finish line here in the House. So with all of that, I appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to our great leader, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate your leadership and all the people up here, and especially those friends from the outside world that have been focusing on this for a long time. The House of Representatives, led by Republicans, came together tonight and said, we will protect the sanctity of your vote. And it's so important. You know, you think about the military veteran who risked his life overseas to defend our freedoms. And he comes back home and his vote will be stolen if somebody's able to vote illegally. And it happens. I come from a state where our elections commissioner was sent to federal prison. We all know it goes on, and how can you protect it? And then when you listen to the arguments by the Democrats, it was some of the most embarrassing, hypocritical debate you could hear. They're talking about voter suppression. Well, let me tell you, and it's been brought up. Try getting on an airplane and flying home tonight without showing a picture ID. Try going into a bar without showing a picture ID. Try getting into the Democrat National Convention without showing an ID. They required it. The same Democrats that are saying things like Jim Crow said you have to have an ID to get into their own convention because they know it's common sense. If you want to have a secure operation in anything, and elections are the most important franchise we have in America to protect democracy. And so, yes, we had a really important vote. Great to see one Democrat. Really perplexing why every other Democrat wanted to support voter fraud. That's really what you're supporting if you voted no tonight. You're saying you're okay with voter fraud. And that's a disgrace. Look at states that have done this. Georgia, they said all those same things, by the way, in the state of Georgia, that passed a voter ID requirement. And what happened in the next election after? You had to actually higher voter participation. And in one part, I think it was because of the voter ID law, because then people had a higher confidence in their vote counting, because they knew it was harder for somebody to cheat and steal because of the voter ID requirement. So you will increase confidence amongst legal voters with this provision. And that's why it's so important that the Senate take this up and find a way to get it to President Trump's desk. President Trump wants this bill on his desk so he can sign it into law and give even stronger protections to all Americans, over 80%, who strongly want the protection of the sanctity of their vote. And the man who helped us get the votes for this bill, our whip, Tom Emmer.
American elections are for American citizens only. That's not controversial. That's just common sense. And that's why our House Republican team passed Congressman Chip Roy's Save America Act today. More than 70 other countries already require a photo ID to vote in their elections. It's also an issue that 83% of Americans support the photo ID requirement in this bill, with even proof of citizenship, including 71% of Democrats. In other words, today's vote should have been a no-brainer for our colleagues across the aisle. Yet House Democrats oppose this common sense piece of legislation. And for what? Mr. Speaker, you were saying it's hard for us to understand. It's not hard. I think it's pretty easy, actually, because identification requirements are now suddenly racist or sexist? No, if that's the case, House Democrats need to reevaluate how they go through the security line at the airport, like Leader Scalise just talked about, how they buy cold medicine or rent books at public libraries. Their argument is absurd because it's a lie. quite simple. This isn't about race or gender for them. This is about wanting to make sure that illegal aliens can vote for Democrats in future elections. Just ask my governor, Tim Walz, who refuses to hand over Minnesota's voter rolls to the Department of Justice. I wonder what you're hiding. We need election integrity now more than ever. And I want to thank Congressman Chip Roy. I want to thank our friend, the chairman, Brian Stile, the speaker, the leader, all these people here, our conference chair, who will light it up here in a second. And I urge our Republican Senate colleagues, just like my colleagues up here, please take up the Save America Act immediately. Let's get this common sense piece of legislation to President Trump's desk as if our democracy depends on it, because it does. And with that, Chair McClain.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Chip, for putting this piece of legislation on the floor, and thank you, Brian, and most of all, thank you to our coalition partners here. Today, House Republicans stood up for the only people that should decide American elections. Anybody want to guess who that is? Americans, right? The radical left wants you to believe voter ID is extreme, right? Give me a break, right? Voter ID is extreme. You need an ID to open a bank account. Gee, that's pretty extreme. You need an ID to board a plane. My goodness gracious, that's extreme.
I'm reading an article that talks about driver's licenses in Michigan. And it's a Bridge, Michigan article, okay? This is very important. And this is why Democrats don't want the Save America Act. U.S. citizens who apply for a Michigan driver's license are automatically registered to vote unless they choose to opt out, while non-citizens who are legally present in the country can apply for a driver's license too. Multiple safeguards exist to prevent them from registering to vote. Okay, so this is in blue states, or in states that have a lot of Democrats running the show. Okay, well, blue states, you can get a driver's license if you're not a citizen. Oftentimes, that driver's license allows you to vote. Okay, and Trump doesn't trust the multiple safeguards. So, because we have seen with 315,000 ballots not being signed accurately, and 17,000 plus ballot images lost, we have seen that these multiple safeguards don't work. Just ask Biden after he won his primary and he was removed from contention by his own political party. Democrats cheated Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and then they expect you to believe that you won't be cheated.
You need the ID to buy a beer, even in Wisconsin, right? My goodness, that is so extreme, Brian. I can't believe it. You even need ID to pick up certain cold medicines. So let's get this straight. Buying a six-pack of beer or cold medicine requires more security than choosing the leader of the free world? You need to ask your Democrat colleagues, like, what's your rationale? Ask them to connect the dots for you on that one. It's just not, it's backwards, it's absurd, and it's hilarious. And why? Because the Democrats know it's hilarious, because they want voter fraud. They want fraud. They advocate for fraud. Look at what they're doing in Minnesota. Just have Mr. Emmer talk about that. They love fraud. God forbid if we take a look at fraud. And you know what's even more jaw-dropping?
Oh, they love the fraud. They love it. You love the fraud, don't you? You love it. They love the fraud, and this is what they love. They love stating there's no fraud or widespread. There's no widespread fraud. They love stating that. And when they audit or recount, they don't do so with the FBI or with local law enforcement hovering over them. And so that's why Tulsi Gabbard, that's why the FBI, that's why there's an intelligence agency component, there's a Federal Bureau of Investigation component. Now you're getting You had a fact check 17,000 Trump and his conspiracy theory. Oh, what's this? 2026, 17,852 missing ballot images. Then they obsessed over, oh, Trump said he wanted 11,000. He wanted 11,000. Trump, he the devourer of democracy. Trump, eating up the Constitution. The parchment. You can see the parchment in his mouth. It's easy. Oh my God, he's eating the Constitution, Trump. Oh, what's this? 17,852 ballot images reported missing. Okay? And here you have the affidavit here. All the tabulators. And then you have right here, there's a criminal investigation now where materially false votes, either through duplicated scanning or injection of pristine ballots. Hello, this is the affidavit for the FBI raid. Potentially injection of pristine ballots, meaning, they went to the not potentially, possibly, like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially I could, testify against Andrew McCabe. That's what he said years back. Potentially, they went to a copy machine and potentially entered pristine ballots. Potentially, possibly, in a red state that never chooses Democrats, but you know what? Biden was so charismatic. Then it goes on to say, those documents discuss an ongoing criminal investigation that is neither public nor known to all the targets of the investigation. Okay? And by the way, I'm not accusing anyone. There is zero evidence that anyone in Fulton County or Atlanta or Georgia or anywhere within this FBI raid committed any crimes. There's an intelligence agency, there's an intel component to this that is far greater than just arresting or indicting people on the ground. Far greater. Okay? So let's continue. This is huge. This is huge, people. Hit subscribe if you're new. This is the type of thing that people should be excited about because it helps Democrats too. Wouldn't Democrats want to ensure that what if a whole bunch of non-citizens vote Republican? Wouldn't that be bad?
Having Democrats like Senator.
What if a whole bunch of Russians from Russia come in and disguise themselves and vote Republican because they want to elevate Trump? What happens then? Isn't this good for Democrats?
Senator Ossoff, who opposes this bill. I mean, he's out there fighting. This is just terrible, right, Senator? Requiring voter ID to vote. Well, hear me on this. Just hear me out. But to get into his town hall, you had to have a voter ID. What is he trying to suppress the vote for people to get into his own town hall? What a contradiction. It's laughable. It's absurd. It's embarrassing. But why? Because it's safer. Of course it's safer, Senator. So why wouldn't you want the same standard for the people who vote? Different standards for you. Just interesting, right? But the American people can see right through that. They recognize common sense when they hear it, and they know that protecting the integrity of our elections is not extreme. It's absolutely essential. For years, Democrats have blurred the lines at our borders, downplayed concerns about election security, and dismissed the voices of everyday Americans who simply want fair and honest elections. Isn't that terrible? They've tried to shame and silence anyone who dares to ask a basic question about ensuring the fact that only Americans can vote. Well, let me share with you. With Chip Roy, Brian Stiles, and this coalition team behind me, that's not going to happen on our watch. The Save America Act is not complicated. It's really not. It's not radical. It's not even controversial. Actually, it's not controversial to anyone who's operating in reality. It's crystal clear. If you want to vote in American elections, all you got to do is prove that you're an American. Period. No loopholes, no games, no excuses. Voting is just another transaction. It is sacred. It's not just another transaction. It's sacred, and it is the foundation of our republic. It's the voice of the American people and the voice that belongs to the citizens. It does not belong to non-citizens. It does not belong to foreign nationals, and it does not belong to anyone who is here illegally. So again, thank you for all of your hard work on this.
And I say, God bless everyone who is here. Let's say they're undocumented. If you're here, God bless you to work, have a good life, and you want the American dream or you want a better life, and you're a good person. God bless you. ICE is doing the same thing it was doing during Biden's administration when he broke records deporting people. There are individuals who commit heinous criminal activity. We're seeing that in the files, and we've seen that with individuals who can't become citizens of any country if they were to illegally enter because they committed crimes, violent and otherwise. And so that's what President Trump is doing. There is a way to become a citizen of a country. There are laws in the books that Democrats passed. Okay, they used ICE also. So the Democrats, that's another issue also. Like Biden and President Obama was called a deporter in chief. Biden broke President Trump's record for deportations. Okay, over 2,700 people lost their lives trying to enter the United States of America. 2,700 people in Biden's administration lost their lives going through a desert that's dangerous, hot, impossible to travel through. And the morally superior don't talk about that. There were no Minneapolis church raids with Don Lemon. Okay, so again, this is huge. This also is taking place because you have right here, this is the affidavit right here. The tabulator machines used in Fulton County are designed to create and save scanned image of each ballot. The county has admitted that it does not have scanned images for all of 528,777 ballots counted during the original count, or the 527,925 ballots counted during the recount. That's why Trump doesn't trust the recounts. That's why people don't trust media. 70% of Americans do not trust media because media kept saying fact check, dun 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 dun, dun. Fact check. Well, every fact check, it seems, 3 years later, we find out, the suspicions and the allegations were somewhat true or completely true. The county has confirmed that during the recount, some ballots were scanned multiple times. Oh, okay, that's not good. Images were made available in response to public records show ballots with unique markings duplicated. Okay. Let's continue. During the risk-limiting auditing, auditors counting the votes by hand reported vote tallies for batches inconsistent with the actual votes within the batch. The state's Performance Review Board reported the Secretary of State investigator confirmed inaccurate batch tallies from the risk-limiting audit. There was an audit and recount, and it was not accurate, but it was marketed and reported as accurate. And so the same Democrats say, oh my God, and you look at CNN, they look this like snarky look. We totally won fair and square. It's like, nah, well, ask Biden that. He won his primary. 14 million people voted for him, and you prevented him from even running. The Vice President Harris usurped him. Why? Biden won his primary, and they kicked him to the curb. This was less than 4 years later after he won the votes of 81 million Americans. D. Auditors assisting the risk-limited audit reported counting purported absentee ballots that had never been creased or folded, as would be required for the ballot to be mailed to the voter. Well, if they're never creased and folded, I mean, what's going on? Are they just going ahead and like literally photocopying? Okay, that's a problem if that happened. On the day of the deadline to report the recount results, the county reported a recounting total of 511,343 ballots, 17,434 ballots fewer than originally counted. That's why Trump wanted to find 11,000. Oh, Trump. Oh, and they make everything into this hysterical, this absolutely hysterical mania. That's why Trump wanted 11,000 that's why Trump wanted officials to find 11,000 votes, because he didn't think that a red state would gravitate towards Biden, a red state that historically doesn't vote Democrat. He didn't think that would be the case. So he said, if you do things correctly, not I want you to illegally find, I want you to print them out, I want you to make them the best fake forgeries on the planet. 11,000. It'll be the best 11,000 fake votes you could ever do for me illegally. He never said that. In the minds of the morally superior Democrats who impeached him over a phone call, Trump did not say find 11,000 votes illegally. He said if you do things properly, you'll find very likely more than 11,000. Well, 17,434 ballots are missing. Not only are 17,434 ballots, according to the affidavit, missing, but the ballot images are missing too. This is important. This is an ABC News article. Again, I'm not accusing anyone. I'm not accusing anyone in Fulton County or anywhere else of committing a specific crime. There's an intel component to this that's far greater. Okay, President Trump this is not like people say, well, nothing's ever going to happen. Rome wasn't built in a day. There's 17,852 missing ballot images. 17,852 missing ballot images, and actually 17,434 ballots missing that are fewer than the original counted. So you do the math on that. What does that mean? What does this mean? It means that the recounts and the audits were flawed. It means that all of the theatrical performances, oh, here we go. He's a sore loser. No, you cheated Biden, you cheated Bernie Sanders, and nothing makes sense. There's zero that makes sense in 2020. Biden wins 81 million Americans and then gets kicked to the curb because of George Clooney's letter. No, it doesn't make any. You don't lose political capital that quickly. But let's continue.
With that, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, we'll take a few questions. Before I do that, I just wanted to say there's a biblical admonition to give honor where honor's due. A lot of people worked really hard on this, and this was a years-long effort. And I was, Chip and I were discussing earlier today how this began when we first filed the SAVE Act. I remember we were out on the steps in the last Congress. Cleta Mitchell was there, and Ken Cuccinelli, Jenny Beth Martin, Tea Party Patriots. All of our friends are there, many here with us tonight. They were out on the steps advocating for this. And when we presented it, we presented it as a matter of common sense, and the American people agreed with that. And in recent days, you've had people like Scott Pressler up here who's just been online just hammering this thing over and over and making sure that people are aware of this. And it really took all that effort from the outside to here inside the building to make this happen. And it's, again, delivering on our promises. So a couple questions about this. We'll be happy to do it. Yes, sir.
Question on this. What assurances have you gotten from Coons is going to come up to the Senate? Have you talked about the talking filibuster? And while I have you, DHS is about to shut down in 2 days. Have you heard any progress on that?
Yeah, so I'm staying in close contact with Leader Thune, and we met yesterday, actually, and talked about this. I told him that it would be coming over. We were certain to pass it, and we would send it, and hopefully we'd get a few Democrats. We got one, okay? So it's a bipartisan bill. It's going to the Senate, and I think Leader Thune is committed. I mean, I know he is to getting this to the floor, but we want to get it not just to the floor, but to the president's desk. We need to get this signed into law. It's really important for all the reasons stated here. We have a custom between us. He doesn't tell me how to run the House. I don't tell him how to run the Senate, but I trust that he is committed to it, and they're trying to figure that out, figure out the right path. And
it will get passed within legislation like a spending package that goes through the House and the Senate. That's how it's going to be passed, and it will be passed.
I think talking filibuster is part of that discussion, and we'll see how it shakes out. So I would hope that there be some sensible Democrats there that would recognize, as one did here tonight, that this is a good policy and a good thing, and it's right. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is anybody who's for free and fair elections, for the integrity of our system, should be on board with this, and hopefully they could get 60 votes over there. We'll see how it happens. With regard to the Homeland Security, there is good faith negotiations ongoing right now. I was at the White House 90 minutes ago with the president talking about that very thing. The White House is sending over a few terms. I don't know if you call it a counter offer, but they're in negotiations with Senate Democrats, and we're very hopeful that that can be worked out. They are going to vote on the House Homeland Security Appropriations Bill that we passed here, by the way, with bipartisan votes. They're going to vote on that tomorrow. If they do not have 60 votes to pass it, I think by unanimous consent they could move into a short-term CR. We don't know yet how that's going to shake out, but I did tell the House Republicans, I put everybody on notice, that I would anticipate votes on Friday. I certainly hope that's true, because shutting down the government right now, if the Democrats force a government shutdown, it will be a disaster for the country. Remember what's at stake here. The Department of Homeland Security covers the agencies that keep Americans safe. You're talking about the Coast Guard, you're talking about FEMA, Secret Service, TSA. No one wants flight delays. We don't need another Democrat shutdown. They already gave us the longest one in history last fall, and we've had enough of that. So let's hope cooler heads prevail and we get this done, and we do not have to shut the government down. Yes, ma'am.
Last question. During the 43-day shutdown, you made the decision to not have the House in for almost the entirety of that. If DHS shuts down, do you plan to keep the recess next week? Do you plan to keep the House out? Do you plan to bring them back? How are you planning to handle it?
Well, I'm not going to forecast what will happen because we don't know. The scenario I just painted for you is the one I expect. No deal yet, but I mean, I do believe that at least the White House is operating in good faith, and I can testify to that because I was just with the group and the president himself. We'll see how the Democrats receive that. This would be different than the full government shutdown for 43 days. And we will do whatever is necessary. Republicans will do whatever is necessary to get the government open. If it looks like we have an opportunity to do that, then I would press for it. If it's a short-term CR, that would cover next week. People have very important events in their districts, serving their constituents, doing that hard work, and that's always of high importance and high priority. So we'll have to make that decision depending on the circumstances as they develop, so stay tuned.
So this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. It's going to pass through the Senate almost certainly within legislation that passes the Senate. So it passed the House. It'll pass within some kind of spending bill. I have no clue how it's going to pass, but it will be embedded within another bill or other legislation. Okay? So, and that's going to be before 2026. This is going to affect every single federal election, throughout, even in blue states, throughout, it's federal law. It's huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that Democrats have been working against forever. This is voter ID and proof of citizenship is like a crucifix to the wonderful, morally superior Democratic Party vampire of recounts and audits and fact checks and snarky, Trump again. It's like, nobody trusts you. Nobody trusts you. Even the Democratic candidates don't trust you. The Democratic candidates themselves don't even trust. It's Democrats, when they win, when they lose, don't even trust their own voting process. That's in numerous blue states. Battles for mayor. People are like, what? Another box? How did that happen? Let's continue. Hit subscribe if you're new. This is historic, ladies, and this is something that needs to be, should get people hyped up.
Federal elections. President Trump is stressing the importance of this week on the SAVE Act, requiring voters to show proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. President Trump is stressing the importance of securing our elections.
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections, and the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved.
Yeah, it's funny you point out Atlanta. Let's take a look at Fulton County, maybe. But Democrats, they're largely opposed to this bill, including that one senator from Georgia, my senator. He even thought, John Ossoff, he thought, even though he requires attendees to his campaign event to show photo ID, I believe this week. Joining us now is Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He sits on the House Oversight and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, thank you for joining us. So we're looking at this bill, the SAVE Act. I know there was talk about including it into the negotiation for the funding bill. Now it looks like maybe it's going to be a standalone bill to get out of the House with Republican support. Where is this bill? What levers in Congress do you all have to try to actually get it passed?
Well, we'll pass it out of the House because we're a majority-driven institution, and every Republican that I'm aware of is for it because this is eminently reasonable. It's commonsensical. When you look at the polling, the American people are also right behind President Trump, and so much as 83 to 84% of any legitimate poll says that Americans approve of voter ID. They accept it. They think it's a good idea. And when the Democrats oppose it, and Chuck Schumer says crazy things like this is Jim Crow 2.0, it's exposing his soft bigotry of low expectations. And also, if he would resort to that kind of hyperbole, it's really shame on him.
Congressman, you mentioned Chuck Schumer, his counterpart in your chamber, Hakeem.
Chuck Schumer got $22,000 from the Democratic donor that is linked directly to heinous criminality and files released. Okay, $22,000 from Jeffrey Epp. Okay, 20 grand to Hillary Clinton, $139,000 to Democrats. Let's continue.
Jeffries, the Democratic leader, he was just on another network and was asked about how many Democrats out in the country support voter ID at 70+%, 3/4 of black voters. He was challenged on that point, and he came back and said this is voter suppression, and he also said this is a violation of federalism. He said it's the states that are responsible for administering elections, not the federal government. He's right about that. I'm not sure an ID component to confirm you're a citizen to register to vote is something that would interfere with that. But I find it very interesting that Jeffries would be making this plea about states' rights, given the last time his party ran the House of Representatives, their first bill, H.R. 1, was a total federal takeover of elections to benefit their party. Who does he think he's kidding here?
Well, if the Democrats didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. I mean, obviously, that's very hypocritical of Leader Jeffries to say that. When you look at the breakdown, even when you look at, like you mentioned about black voters, Hispanic voters, white voters, we all hover around 80% approval because we live in America in 2025 where you need an ID to go on an airplane. You need an ID if you want to purchase alcohol. You need an ID for pretty much every facet of your life. So why would you think it would be more difficult for a minority to have an ID? It's very insulting. And what it says is Democrats truly believe that they get about 1 to 5% additional voting because of lax rules in states like California and Oregon, where you don't even vote in person anymore. You vote by mail. So if you want $100 million in the lottery, you can redeem it two ways. What's the most secure way? You can walk in and give them the ticket, or you can mail it in. Nobody ever mails in a $100 million ticket. We should have that same standard for our federal elections.
I agree with you, Congressman. If you can riot in person, you can vote in person, and you can show an ID. I'm always proud to do it in the great state of Tennessee. I want to ask you again about the SAVE Act. It's very important to me. I'm very close with Scott Pressler, who I know has been pushing Senator Thune on this, hoping to get this across the finish line. So I guess I want to ask you, how far are Republicans in Congress willing to go to force this issue? And how far should they be willing to go to get this across the finish line?
We should go to the mats. Again, it'll go out of the House. I think some Democrats will even vote for it. We'll see. It'll be a handful, probably not more than 10, but every Republican will. So then it's a question of, can you get the 60 votes in the Senate? We got 53 pretty much for sure with the GOP. Can we get 7 Democrats, or will they end debate and just let it go to the floor? And we should really fight, because if we don't have honest, fair, transparent, and elections that we can all believe in, we're in jeopardy of losing our republic. So there's nothing more important than passing the SAVE Act and doing it as quickly as possible.
Senator Thune was talking about how they're going to, if it doesn't pass on its own in the Senate, how it will be embedded within legislation, some kind of spending bill that passes the House and the Senate, and it will become federal law. Democrats will have to enforce, there will be federal enforcement of this in every blue city, every blue state, every blue county of the country. This is historic landmark. And this is just, it's amazing. They won't be able to just flood the country full of absentee ballots, for example, because you'd have to then prove, everybody's going to have to prove when they get an absentee ballot, photo ID and citizenship requirement.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Is it worth blowing up the filibuster to get it across the finish line?
Well, that's a question I guess the senators are going to have to answer. I would seriously consider it because it's that important.
Wow. Okay. Congressman, I do want to switch gears and talk about Iran.
So they should, Senate Majority Leader Thune said that they don't have the votes to end the filibuster. But they should do it. They should. Don't worry about the Democrats passing whatever warped legislation, the ideologically driven legislation. That's not, they're not going to, there's nothing that drives the Democratic Party right now in terms of policy. They're purely driven by media, overwhelming media coverage. That's it. If media has to contend, because there's already defamation suits, hundreds of millions that Trump won. Now the FCC is getting involved and making sure that, the ladies at The View give Republicans a chance. Not just, Democrats running for office. They give Republicans a chance. And a lot of the endless late night coverage could be viewed as campaign violations. They're giving billions in free advertising the past 10 years. It's not just freedom of speech when you're coordinating. If, for example, writers or producers, directors, or TV people or cable people on the left are coordinating with Democrats or Democratic operatives, that's a serious campaign finance issue. But let's continue.
The Democrats want to have people who are here illegally vote for them. That's the God's honest truth. There couldn't be more of a common sense proposal than saying you have to provide voter ID to vote, just like when you check into a hotel or you buy an airline ticket.
TBJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated, TBJ. And thank you for the kind words. DeFreak, I didn't see you. Thank you, DeFreak. John, thank you. Paul, thank you. And Teddy Bear, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Greatly appreciated. TBJ, greatly appreciated. Thanks for the kind words.
Prove who you are. But I think it's really interesting and telling that two issues are converging at the same time. This issue of illegal immigration and this issue of voter ID. The Democrats aren't really quiet about it anymore. They're sort of saying the quiet part out loud, which is they want to bring in 15 to 20 million people in here illegally, and they want them to vote for them because they know their ideas are terrible and they can't win elections otherwise.
In Wyoming, as in the rest of the country, it is easy for all eligible U.S. citizens to obtain acceptable identification, proving their citizenship. The radical left's claims to the contrary are simply untrue and defy reality.
Large majorities support voter ID and uniform election deadlines. They support proof of citizenship requirements and clean registration lists. Yet despite this consensus, many states have moved to undermine election integrity. We can think about the DNC convention in 2024. You had to show an ID. Democrats don't have a problem with photo ID writ large. They just have a problem with photo ID in the instance of voting.
Okay, that was first Senator Eric Schmidt. Then you heard from House witnesses and House Administration Chair Brian Stile on voter ID for U.S. elections. That bill now moving to a vote in the House possibly this week. A growing chorus say that the only reason Democrats do not want voter ID is so they can cheat. Fox News' Laura Ingraham tweeted, "Imagine being in a political movement that feels it cannot win if voter ID is required." Look who's here with us now from House Oversight, Congressman Brandon Gill. Congressman, it's great to see you. Is the House going to get voter ID passed pretty soon and send it over to the Senate? I mean, 7 out of 10 nations have voter ID. The U.S. is an outlier here.
That's right. We're going to get it passed. We're going to get it passed this week. And the goal in the Senate is to make sure that this bill actually gets to the president's desk so that it can be signed into law. Now, this is something the American people are focused on. The vast majority of Americans want the Save America Act passed. They want voter ID because they want to ensure that only American citizens, only people who swear allegiance to our country, to its institutions, and to our governing framework are influencing our political system. That's a core part of national sovereignty. But, you can't have a country if you allow foreigners to cross our borders illegally and vote in our elections. And that's something that the American people are very, very well aware of. So we're going to get it done.
So you're optimistic about it. The original SAVE Act passed last April on a bipartisan basis. We know only 4 Democrats voted for it. 4 Democrats, though. You're right. The majority of voters are minorities. Minorities want and demand voter ID. When you see the polls, that could sway more moderate Democrats on this issue, no?
I think that a lot of moderate Democrats agree with us that voter ID is a common sense solution. But remember, we're in this position in particular because of 4 years of open borders under the Biden administration. Whenever you let in 15 to 20 million illegal aliens, and then you don't have a secure election system that ensures that those illegal aliens are not voting in our elections, that's a big problem.
When they say, oh, it's already law, there's no mechanism to enforce it. Okay, that's the issue. Again, Democrats play such vapid semantic games. Oh, it's rare. Well, how is that a rebuttal? When saying it's rare, inherent within that rebuttal is the fact that you've admitted and it happens. That's enough. Simply saying it's rare, it's like, as long as you admit it takes place, the fact you think it's rare or doesn't happen often is irrelevant.
And I think the Democrats created this problem intentionally. I think Senator Schmidt nailed it perfectly. They wanted to import people so that they could vote in our election system, and the Democrats are making the bet that illegal aliens are going to vote for Democrats. That's what we're up against right now. That's why the Democrats are so adamantly opposed to it, because they see this as an existential political issue.
Okay, let's listen to witnesses on mail-in voting and how mail-in voting causes cheating. Watch this.
One of the most troubling shifts has been the expansion of universal mail voting, which sends unsolicited ballots automatically to all voters regardless of eligibility.
Biden got 81 million Americans to choose him to become president. 81 million. Does Joe Biden, do you think, if you're a morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat, do you think that Joe Biden had the support of 81 million Americans? Because if he did, why was he kicked to the curb politically just because of one debate performance after he won his primary? 14 million Democrats voted for Biden. And yet, he won 81 million Americans, 14 million Democrats, and still, he lost political capital and momentum because of one debate? That makes no sense. That is not possible. There's not a political scientist or professor or expert on the planet that can explain how Biden lost the support, the political capital of 81 million Americans. Then the question is, did he have that support? Was it genuine? Did he actually get those people to vote for him?
No mature democracy would adopt such an insecure voting system. Among other ills, it weakens chain of custody protections, it increases the risk of coercion, and brings that risk of coercion to people's houses, a real risk for vulnerable voters.
Talk to us about this. Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden pushed mail-in voting during the COVID pandemic.
Of course they pushed mail-in voting because it's incredibly insecure. You don't know if the person who voted in that mail-in ballot is the person who actually should be voting on that ballot. You don't know who's harvesting the ballots. There are a lot of open questions. And that's what we're trying to do, is reduce the amount of uncertainty in our election system. Again, to make sure that we know that only people who are supposed to be voting are voting, so that whenever we get the results, we can all be confident that the election was secure and that it was done with integrity. That's something, again, the American people agree with. I think mail-in voting has been a big problem in this country, and that's something that we're trying to fix.
Again, in the chat, did Biden have the support of 81 million Americans? If so, Why on earth, if Biden got the support of 81 million Americans, which is, you're a denier, which is, Democrats always co-opt and they always use historical record in the most vile and sinister manner. Being the denier was a word, the semantics is linked to denying historical record. Okay, you're a denier, you deny a historical event where millions upon millions perished and were murdered. You're a denier. So historical record is just as reality-based as Biden's victory, where 81 million Americans voted for somebody, and God bless him, who couldn't articulate his thoughts in a coherent manner. Nobody believed that he truly had the political capital. That's why Trump doesn't trust Democrats. When Democrats, this is terrible, how dare you, oh my God, Trump, it's like, he doesn't trust you. You don't trust him. Democrats do not trust Trump, and believe me, the feeling is more than mutual. It's okay. Political parties don't trust one another, and there's no political party in the world that trusts their competition anywhere in the world. So the outrage machine, the fabricated, hilarious, theatrical performance, why would Democrats want to oppose voter ID? Because maybe they benefit from people not having voter ID or not proving citizenship. Oh, just maybe they benefit. Maybe they cheat. It's possible. You can ask Bernie Sanders, but don't ask Bernie Sanders because he would say, there's no evidence at all that I was cheated. In fact, the Russians cheated me. Oh, Debbie, let me do this. Listen, Russia. And he actually said this, if you could believe it's unbelievable. Russia, I don't want your help. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the man was actually cheated by his own political party and he was, Russia, I don't want your help. Just, if you're listening to me, Vladimir, I don't want your help. I don't want to know any more emails. I've had enough of her emails. I don't want to know any more emails that show that Democrats were cheating me. And certainly don't want to know how they cheated Biden after he won 14 million votes. And he won 81 million Americans. Okay, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
The Rules Committee met and produced a rule providing for consideration of 4 pieces of legislation. The rule provides for consideration of S. 1383, the Save America Act, under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on House Administration or their respective designees, and provides for 1 motion to commit. The rule also provides for consideration of H.R. 2189, the Law Enforcement Innovate to De-Escalate Act, under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate, equally divided among and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Judiciary and the Committee on Ways and Means, or their respective designees, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule also provides for consideration of H.R. 261, the Undersea Cable Protection Act of 2025, under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committees on Natural Resources or their respective designees, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule also provides for consideration of H.R. 3617, the Securing America's Critical Mineral Supply Act, under a closed rule with 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce or the respective designees, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. Further, the rule provides same-day authority through Friday, February 13th, for a rule providing for consideration of a continuing resolution related to the Department of Homeland Security funding. Mr. Speaker, as the House Representative works to deliver on the critical issues our nation faces, we urge our colleagues today to prioritize the passage of S. 1383, the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility Act, or the Save America Act, which builds upon the SAVE Act introduced in previous Congresses that requires states to obtain proof of citizenship for federal elections, ensuring only U.S. citizens are voting in those elections. In addition, the Save America Act requires individuals to present a valid photo identification before voting. Our founders set forth our electoral processes 250 years ago based upon the simple and ultimate principle that only Americans should vote. But in this age of progressive, suicidal empathy, basic concepts such as voter ID and proof of citizenship have been attacked as suppression. Let's consider the facts. Fact one, under the previous administration, the Biden-Harris-Mayorkas administration, some 10 million or more illegal aliens poured into communities across our country, adding to an existing foreign-born population which totals upwards of over 50 million people, or close to 16%. Fact two, that while only U.S. citizens are legally eligible to vote in federal elections, federal law actually interferes with and prevents states from using federal data to check their voter rolls to ensure that only citizens are voting.
And now the federal government has access to the voter rolls. It's like Democrats, they love audits and recounts, but they don't want the government, they don't want the federal government involved in ensuring that people who choose the president have an ID and have proof of citizenship. The question is, why wouldn't they want that? Why wouldn't Democrats want that? It's not difficult to prove that you're a citizen. Does it take, maybe, is it inconvenient? Yeah, sometimes it could be. You can get a passport. It's not a lot of money. It's not difficult to obtain. What's the issue? Because if you have blue states giving driver's licenses to anyone, okay, without demanding proof of citizenship, and the driver's license allows a person to vote, well, then there you have a problem. Okay, the same problem that you had when people said, oh, everything was fine. Oh, what's this? 17,852 missing ballot images. Oh, okay. Gee, maybe the recounts and the audits were conducted in the same haphazard manner as the actual election was.
Such that we end up in the upside down situation where a state like Arizona has two different sets of systems, one for state and federal, and one for state and local, and one for federal. Fact three, this is a recipe for fraud and a recipe for having people vote who shouldn't be voting. It undermines people's confidence in our electoral system. And when combined with the fact that several jurisdictions offering driver's license and other benefits to illegal aliens and other foreign nationals, it provides opportunity for non-citizens to register to vote. Fact four, polling data is overwhelmingly in support of the Save America Act and its principles, that only American citizens should vote and that we should use voter identification when we go to vote. Polling indicates that over 70% of Democrats across this country, over 90% of Republicans, well over 70% of virtually every ethnicity and ethnic group in the country, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, white Americans, men, women, rural, urban, overwhelmingly support voter identification and ensuring that only citizens vote. Fact five. We passed the SAVE Act in the previous preceding Congress. We passed the SAVE Act in this Congress, focusing on citizenship. We now bring the Save America Act forward that adds voter identification. Again, overwhelmingly popular. The SAVE Act passed on a bipartisan basis. Democrats joined with us in the previous Congress. Democrats joined with us in this Congress. In both instances, the House of Representatives affirmed that only U.S. citizens should vote in federal elections. Let's add voter ID to it. Let's pass the Save America Act. Let's send it over to the Senate and let the Senate move this legislation to the president's desk.
So when President Trump signs this, and he will sign it before Democrats get the House, if they get the House, which they likely will, there's a chance Republicans, like I say in the segment prior to the video prior to this one, check that one out. Like 130,000 jobs in January created. the economy is moving in the right direction. 4.2% GDP. That's what's expected. In 2026, mortgage rates will be a lot lower. And so you're going to have economic growth. Tariffs will, the transition into tariffs, that'll be easier. Hopefully supply chains and it will be able to reindustrialize and bring supply chains back to the country and jobs lost from outsourcing. So a lot of great things are going to happen in terms of the economy. Trump and Republicans could keep the House. But this is huge. This gives the federal government the ability to ensure that only citizens vote. And when Democrats say, well, it doesn't happen, it's like, you know what? There's a criminal investigation with an intelligence agency component to it right now, where you had thousands upon thousands of missing ballot images and missing ballots themselves. And so we found that out years later. We're always finding out things years later. And Democrats always look at the recounts and the studies and this and that. It's like, well, when the FBI is not involved and you have a study or a recount conducted by only people who benefit from, a specific outcome for that recount or study or audit, you might not get the reality of the situation. Democrats almost certainly wanted millions upon millions of people to come into the country because they benefited politically, not because they're altruistic and they just love people. And Biden deported more people with ICE than Trump did in 2024, than Trump did in 2019. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is the type of thing. Paul Bartlett, thank you. Paul Bartlett, thank you so very, very much. This is the type of thing that people should get really passionate about. This is something that's going to help Republicans in every election, every federal election going forward. I mean, this is huge. This is what Democrats, this is like the crucifix to the liberal, wonderful, morally superior liberal Democratic Party vampire of potential corruption. They have been fighting against voter ID and proof of citizenship for federal elections forever. Okay, Congress, presidency, they did not want the federal government or even state governments, especially state governments, to be able to prove that only citizens would vote. And nobody knows why Democrats would oppose this. Oh, it's going to be difficult. It's like, well, you know what? Democrats the past 5-6 years have pushed so many difficult things. They've shut down society because they were told to by the experts. That was really difficult. Okay, this is something that will protect democracy. They love talk about, democracy, we love democracy, as they kicked Biden to the curb politically after he won 14 million votes in his primary. And 81 million Americans, apparently. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. This is huge, people. Go to A.J. Goodman's other channel right now. This is historic.